congratulate you all first of all, and I'd like you all to charge up and drink a toast to our coach for a tremendous effort.
Well, it doesn't it, lad? I always thought if we tried hard enough, long enough, it would eventually come. It has happened. It's a wonderful thing. I neither have the talent nor the ability to really express my feelings, but wherever you boys ever go or whatever happens to you, I'll always remember you for this wonderful moment you gave me.
Well, what better could you get than that?
Oh, I do like to be beside the seaside. Oh, I do like to be beside the sea. And down at the junction there's a football ground, and that's where the Saints all hang around. So let's give a cheers for old St Kilda, for this year the Premiers they may be. Though it's not yet in the bag, we've got hopes of winning the flag beside the seaside, beside the sea. Though it's not yet in the bag, we've got hopes of winning the flag beside the seaside, beside the sea.
Set themselves and a mark to Bob Murray. A mark to Murray. 28 and a half minutes gone.
Hit the boundary line.
28 and a half gone. There's Murray's kick to the wing position on the outer side. There's the siren. St Kilda got it. They've got it.
From that final siren in 1966, things would never quite be the same again for the St Kilda Football Club. Of 8 foundation members of the VFL in 1897, the Saints had travelled the rockiest road, had known the least success, and were the last to win a flag. It had taken 69 years. The club had produced a dazzling array of football talent, a stream of champion players, but poor administration, constant infighting and division had taken a terrible toll. In 1961, the committee decided to name former player Alan Jeans as coach. A split decision even then, the margin his way, a solitary vote. This was to be the beginning of the most successful era in the Saints' history. This was the Jeans era.
What happened in 1961 was my first year as coach, and you know, there was a lot of queries about me getting the job, and you know, and people didn't believe that I was ready or ever would be ready to take on such an important position in a club. And because you know the history of St Kilda Football Club, they've turned over a lot of coaches over a long period of time. But anyway, in 61 we were fortunate enough to make the finals. It was the first time since 1939, and I think it did give me a bit of credibility, and then it allowed me to be put on a longer-term contract.
It was probably hard for Jeansy because what happened, we had Alan Killigrew in at the start of my career in '57, and then Jimmy Francis took over in '59-60. And he felt that we were pretty close to being able to make the four and being pretty competitive. And then Jimmy was, sacked or wasn't reappointed, and Jeansy took over. And
he was only cutting his teeth too, you know. I mean, he was an apprentice, and he took on, I've got to say this for Jeansy, he did the whole thing in a pretty manly way. I mean, we were opposed off the ground. And he came to me one day and said they'd sacked Francis, you know, and it was a bit of a cooked-up job, and that Jeansy get it and so forth. But he came to my house, and I'd never been there before, and he said, I want your assistance, I want your backing, I'm going to coach the team. And I said, oh, come back another day, I've still got the taste of Jim Francis in my mouth. And he did come back, and he persevered, and he was sort of one of the boys, but he developed as a coach. We didn't really see it at the junction, but I think we certainly saw it at Moorabbin.
And I think in the early days it was probably hard for Jeansy because there were probably better players playing there that he was now telling them what to do, and he had to sort of feel his way.
By his own admission, Jeans was an honest player without rising to levels of greatness. Recruited from Finley in New South Wales, he played the first of his 77 games in 1955 and by 1959 was vice-captain to Neil Roberts. This is the only known footage of Jeans in action, playing against Richmond at the Punt Road ground in 1958. Ironically, a young Tiger named Tommy Hafey would be one of his opponents. In the decades ahead, they would become two of the game's most astute coaches.
There's a chance for Mackenzie. Mackenzie can't do any good with it. Jeans handballs across. Jeans in possession, takes a handball from Minahan.
When I got to 60, the side was improving, and I wasn't a great player, and I had no illusions about that. And I thought I had an offer to go to Bendigo and coach Sandhurst up there. I had the contract, but I just couldn't get the transfer in the police department. And that was in 1960, and I stayed that year. And unfortunately, in the last practice match, I got kicked in the chest, and I broke a few ribs and tore the cartilages between my ribs. And every time I endeavoured to play again, I used to break down, and eventually the doctor said, look, I think you should give it away for the rest of the year after having 2 or 3 tries to come back. And then Brian Gleeson, he was the reserves coach at that stage, he had a promotion in his work and he was transferred to Tasmania. And a few of the blokes off the club asked me, would I take over his role as, seeing I wasn't playing, would I take over his role as the reserves coach? And that was about the last 8 or 9 games for the year, and we enjoyed a bit of success. I must have impressed a few people because at the end of the year, I was told that they were going to call applicants for a coach, and if I applied for it, that I'd have a chance of getting it. That was a few people, the thinking of a few people in the club at that particular stage. So I applied for the coaching job, and they tell me I won it by 1 vote, and that was in '61, and I started off and I was only 28 years of age.
In 1961, Neil Roberts would lead the Saints on to the MCG in the first semi-final. It was St Kilda's first finals appearance in 22 years, and they'd be beaten by Footscray. Big Bill Stevenson was one of the more tragic stories of the time. One of the glamour players of the late 50s and early 60s, the big ruckman come forward from Sale had been switched to full forward in 1961 but broke his ankle. In 1962 he kicked 20 goals in 4 games before breaking down with a knee. He would retire at 26.
If Bill can kick this one, this will be his first goal. He's already kicked 4 points. Bill Stevenson right in front of goal for St Kilda. There's no doubt about this one. It's right through the middle. And
Stevens could have been a fabulous player, Bill. He was one of the strongest men. He had a super pair of hands, and unfortunately broke his ankle. I think it was down at Geelong one day, and they put his leg in cast. They pinned the ankle, and unfortunately we didn't have enough experience, but his thigh wasted it back, and when he came back from his injury, he got into a situation where he twisted quickly on his knee, and he broke down and did the cruciate ligament.
In 1962, St Kilda would add to its lineup a man who would quickly become one of its favourite sons.
White, oh, Darryl Baldock, oh, Darryl Baldock, Mr. Magic with a ball.
Well, he could spin to the left inside you. He could blind turn back to the right. As hard to catch as Ronnie Biggs, like a hummingbird in flight. Now no one ever touched him or caught him with the ball. They sold him here, they sold him there, but he was never there at all. Oh, shoulder down, elbow out, you've got the dot right in your sights. Then suddenly he's just not there and you found the man in white. Oh.
Darryl was just a fabulous player, fabulous person, came at the right time, and you know, I think he's one of the best players that I ever had the fortune. I've never named the best player I ever coached because I don't see why I should top-note myself with one player and fall out with the rest.
Baldock had replaced Brownlow medallist Neil Roberts as captain. The former skipper, though, wanted to play on.
I wanted to play on. I was only 29, but I had a university course to go to. I also had Casey and Richards out in the car wanting me to go on Channel 7. And I said, Alan, I'm burning to keep going. I want to keep going, and I rue the day now. I said, look, do you think we could, if I could sort of get a rest away from centre half back and I could perhaps be a forward for you? It was working, you know, and he said, oh, don't bother. I said, thank you, and I went out and signed with Casey. So, you know, I do regret that.
When you coach a football side for a long period of time, there's always a changeover where a group of the older players come to the end of their career, and that happened in '62. Neil Roberts, Eric Guy, I think Billy Young, Bud Allen. These are the players who served the club extremely well during the 50s. They'd come to the end of their career and they wanted to go coaching or left for other reasons, and then it was a new era as far as I was concerned, and we were fortunate enough in the first game in 1963. It was against Melbourne, I think, the first game. We introduced 4 new players, and that was Ian Stewart, Carl Ditteridge, Bob Murray, and a person by the name of Jim Wallace, who was a ruckman. He came from Quambatook, and these was the nucleus of a new side as far as we were concerned, and they were the blokes that we actually started to build the new side up with Baldock there.
18 years later, in 1981, when he was inducted in Channel 7's Television Football Hall of Fame, Stewart, the current coach of South Melbourne, was asked about that debut.
Ian, I think from memory, your first game with St Kilda, another youngster joined the Saints and played that day by the name of Carl Ditteridge.
That's right, Sandy, yes.
I think Carl had a few more headlines that day than you did, but do you remember the game?
I do very well. It's at the now Fitzroy ground, and we were playing Melbourne. Carl was 16 at the time, and there was a couple of other young players playing, Bob Murray and Jim Wallace, right, the guy that used to fly down from Quambatook in those days, his own plane. But yes, it was a very torrid game, and I was running through the centre-half forward line position, and another Tasmanian at the time sort of scuttled me. That's Bob Johnson, knocked me unconscious.
Talking about Tasmania...
Ian Stewart and Bob Murray were 18, Jim Wallace 21. But the one man everyone was talking about was a bounding, blonde 17-year-old from East Brighton named Carl Ditteridge.
Ruckman named Carl Ditteridge. This match against Footscray was only his 10th, and the schoolboy made his presence felt.
Carl, lately you've been sort of branded as a bad man. What do you feel about this label? Do you think this label fits?
I don't know. It's just that it's my view or my aim to play football. That's the only way I can play football. I can't adopt it any other way. I've been playing like that ever since I can remember. I just can't change it overnight. I've just got to keep on playing like that and hope that nothing else or nothing major comes of it.
If you can work it back to 32 years ago, Ditteridge was getting as much publicity as Gary Ablett and Wayne Carey combined. So what really should have happened, in retrospect and hindsight, that Carl needed a full-time manager and a full-time press agent.
The second game he played against John Nichols out at Carlton, and of course the publicity continued through the week about this find that we'd found in Carl Ditteridge, and he played against John Nichols, and I suppose John was one of the finest ruckmen ever to play the game, particularly in the sense of using his body, and Carl was still jumping high in the air, 6'4", but because Nichols was such an so good at using his body, he was able to keep Carl away from the ball, and it was a great lesson for Carl, that second game, and that's why I talk about the difference between being a great athlete playing football and being a natural footballer, which I considered John Nichols to be.
1963 started with St Kilda winning 3 of their first 4 matches. At Geelong in round 5, the much-vaunted Saints took a hammering, kicking only 3 goals. Their worst performance against the Cats at Cardinia Park.
On the outer wing, looks for Baldock. Baldock, one of the few occasions he's been unguarded today. Baldock kicks it up to the half-forward flank. Been picked up there and handballed across it. Intercepting beautifully is Peter Walker. He's had 2 bounces, running a long way with the ball. Gets a boot to it, sends it down to centre-half forward, and Palmer marks, plays on, gives it to Polinelli. Polinelli tries to find Wade, can't do so. Howells over, Wade gets the ball. He's aiming for his 6th goal. No, he hand punches across to Watts, and Watts runs in to get the easiest of goals. Good play, Geelong, really good football, premiership football, and
A record 102-point win against Fitzroy in round 14, the Lions kicking only 2 goals against St Kilda at the Junction Oval. A record 10-0 final burst, adding valuable percentage points. Against Collingwood at Victoria Park, the Saints won for the second year in a row, a resounding 10-goal win. A momentous occasion, considering it was only their 3rd win at the Magpies' home in 66 years. True to their volatile nature, the Collingwood fans booed their own team off the park. Against the top side in the competition, and eventual premiers Geelong in round 16, the Saints were ruthless. 44,900, the second biggest crowd ever shoehorned into the Junction Oval, saw St Kilda at its very best. Memories of that early season hiding were quickly erased.
Good play by Kevin Roberts. Sends it up towards the full forward position. Roy West is in front of Murray. Coming through as Bulldog kicks it off the ground. A chance for Rowland. Takes his time. Runs into the open goal. It's Rowland's 3rd goal.
By golly, it's Polly. A left foot kick onto the half-forward line. Sharrock gets up a little too late. Snapped up by Sinman very smartly. Sinman from the back line kicks the ball into attack. Kevin Roberts punches it out here. Beautiful play. Taken by Reid. His hand passes to Wallace. Back to Reid. Great play, St Kilda. A kick into the full forward zone. Roland very nearly marked it, but was bustled out of the way. Roy West turns out of trouble, then is back into trouble. The ball in the goal square almost. Pick up by Bulldog. That's it. The Saints come marching in. There's hysteria on this side of the ground where all the St Kilda supporters are. They were cheering so loudly our camera was nearly shattered.
In 1963, the finals race came down to the final round. Essendon were in 4th spot by a percentage whisker over St Kilda 5th. The Bombers beat Collingwood by 27 points at Windy Hill, but it wouldn't be enough. St Kilda were in a savage mood in the do-or-die struggle against North Melbourne. A 9-goal last quarter gave them their 13th win for the season, their most since 1939, and enough percentage to push the reigning premiers Essendon out of the finals. In the semi-final the next week against Melbourne, who were without suspended skipper Ron Barassi, the Saints lost by 7 points. The Saints had gone in with Baldock and Stewart under an injury cloud and gambled on Stevenson's injured knee.
For the team, no, it wasn't the right thing, but I was able to put it across that I was okay and running a straight line, of course, and then, of course, the game finds you out. And I was never right at that time, no.
Well, as a position...
The biggest stars of the period were undoubtedly the flamboyant and controversial Ditterich and the brilliant Tasmanian Stewart and Baldock. The Doc finishing runner-up in the Brownlow medal to Bobby Skilton.
We all knew just how good they were. I played next to Stewie for 5 years and he was a sensational player. He never gave in. He had skills that I'd never seen before. He could mark, he could kick both feet. And in those days there were very few players who could kick properly both feet. Probably Bob Skilton and Ian Stewart were about it. And Baldock was miraculous. He had the ball on a string. He could keep the ball in front of him no matter what pressure he was under, and he got a lot of pressure from full backs. You know, I marvel at the pressure he took and the punishment he took, and still kept going.
The side was verging on greatness. Every line boasted fine players. There were headline grabbers and superstars. But St Kilda boasted wonderful depth and players with passion. There were none finer than lion-hearted ruckman Alan Morrow. In 1995, in St Kilda historian Russell Holmesby's book Heroes with Halos, he was ranked number 8 on a list of St Kilda's all-time greats.
Alan Morrow possibly was one of the best tap ruckmen that I've come across. I've just been having a talk to Alan and having a drink with him. And he would only be 2 inches taller than me. And his leap was phenomenal. He had great ball sense. He knew what he was doing with the ball. And I think if you look at the pre-season games now, you'll understand that the palming of the ball is coming back in. And I think Morrow he was a fantastic player, no doubt.
Verdon Howell had lost the 1959 Brownlow medal on countback to Bobby Skilton. He would have to wait 30 years for the medal to be awarded to him retrospectively. Over 159 games, the slightly built but beautifully balanced 5'10" Howell would play with distinction at fullback and full forward.
I've always thought that some of his marks and his runs were fantastic. If I can use the comparison that maybe Verdon always reminded me of Rudolf Nureyev in Swan Lake. That's the way he played his football.
On the field, Jeans was building the nucleus of a great side. Off the field, the administration that had been plagued with troubles for decades was operating smoothly, one step ahead of the rest of the competition. Moves were afoot to leave the Junction Oval. St Kilda had realised the untapped potential of the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne and were keen to take control of the rich vein of footballers on the Mornington Peninsula. The Moorabbin ground had become available. The move was on. Veterans like former captain and coach Wells Ikey were aghast at the move. He promptly resigned from the committee in protest. Some 30 years later, Harold Bray still rues the move.
I thought that was a great ground. Easy to get to, easy to get away from. And all my mates, you know, all lived around there. They're all gone now. Yes, I just lived in Windsor, you're not far from the ground. I'll never forget it.
We had done a survey of the area. We had found that a lot of our supporters, or we say the younger generation, had left the St Kilda area and moved down in this area. We did a plebiscite and established these figures, and you know, when the vote was taken. But there was another reason why we moved down, was the fact that most of our players come from down this area down here, and it was an unallotted area. And that unallotted area gave us the opportunity, because of our geographical location at the Moorabbin ground, was a very good debating point to encourage a player to come and play with your club, and that helped us to gain some of the players in the unallotted area, because the boundaries closed around about Cheltenham here, and that was then we became all unallotted area.
Players remember cleaning up the ground in preparation for the opening game.
Well, I did all the work. I was in the middle of a group. We're like a team of duck shooters, you know, and I'd pick up the stone, I'd say guns to the top, and I'd pick the stone up and throw it over the fence. But we're a close-knit bunch of blokes. We're very much like a countryside, trying to make something work, and the committee were exactly the same way, and it was a great part of my life, actually.
In 1965, a record home attendance of 51,370 saw St Kilda play Collingwood in the opening round at Moorabbin. They hung from the rafters, they squeezed into every vantage point. They won by a kick. St Kilda would finish on top of the ladder in 1965 for the only time in the club's history, and Ian Stewart would win the Brownlow medal on countback from North's Noel Teesdale, with Baldock 2 votes behind in outright third place. Baldock, incidentally, was St Kilda's best and fairest and leading goal kicker. Stewie had courage, balance and skill, coupled with marking prowess and an ability to extricate himself from trouble.
Umpire official letting it go. Eventually it's Mackenzie who boots it back into the centre of the ground. And Stewart, no sooner said than done.
Griffiths gets the left foot into the centre. Benton and Stewart fly for it.
Oh, beauty!
Thrown in St Kilda's forward pocket. Up they go. The ball comes down to Stewart, who snaps away with the right foot, and it's going to be close. He's put it through.
Back flank on the stand side. The players set themselves. And Stewart goes a mile and pulls down a good one. Tuddenham puts his boot into it, in towards the centre, and Stewart is opposing number one.
St Kilda won the second semi-final by a solitary point over Collingwood and faced Essendon for the chance to create history. Overwhelmed by the occasion and the big match pressure, the Saints were no match for the Bombers, losing by 6 goals.
A lack of experience, as I said. We hadn't been in a grand final since 1913, and who did I have to go to speak to? I had nobody to guide me through it, and we made errors. I can remember some of the mistakes we made on that particular night. Players were going out to the airport, picking up their parents from interstate, and staying at their place and then trying to get them to the ground. I think we lost focus in relation to what we had to achieve. It never happened again. We brought the people ashore from interstate, but we put them into motels, their parents. We arranged for them to go to the ground and their tickets and all that, so the players could just focus on the game itself. And well, in '65, Morrow came off the ground very early on that particular day, plus our lack of experience and how to think. Everything just fell into place, finishing on top of the ladder. We just thought it was a natural progression to go on and win the premiership.
'65 was the year that I thought we could have won it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we beat Collingwood in the second semi-final, went straight through to the grand final, so we were there. And then unfortunately in that match I got hurt in the first 5 minutes, and I thought, well, there's my chance of a premiership gone. And at that stage the side was leading probably by 3 goals, but then Essendon, who'd come from 4th position, played pretty good football and rolled us.
One of the biggest matches of the 1966 season was the clash between St Kilda and Collingwood at Victoria Park. Stewart and Baldock were back from the ANFC Carnival in Hobart. The Saints were first on the ladder, 8 wins and 1 loss. Collingwood trailing in second spot on percentage only. 37,000 at Victoria Park saw Wayne Richardson with 6 goals almost single-handedly outscore the Saints.
And it's gone across. We'll have to wait and see. It's a goal. I got no idea who kicked it.
Collingwood by 12 goals, and it would be that win that separated them as the top 2 teams after 18 rounds.
He's only been on the field a couple of minutes. A poor kick, twisted foul. Is that Wallace? Yes. Wallace has taken the mark, and a chance for him to score his 3rd goal, and Collingwood 16. It would make their total 109 to St Kilda's 37. A debacle for St Kilda.
Collingwood go to 16 goals, 13 to St Kilda's 5-7. Out of those 16 goals, the 2 rovers for Collingwood, Richardson and Wallace, have kicked 6 and 3 goals respectively. 9 goals out of 16.
In a career that spanned 285 games over 18 seasons, Carl Ditterich would build an awesome reputation as one of football's hard men. Flailing arms mixed with unbridled aggression. A big man who could put the fear of God into a team. He would front the league tribunal 18 times and be suspended for a total of 30 weeks. And mostly in the years when television evidence was barred and trial by video unheard of. There was no footage of the incident that saw Fitzroy's Darryl Peoples flattened in the second last game of the season. Ditterich was sensationally suspended for 6 matches. He would miss the final series.
I remember that stage, and it was just before the finals in '66, and we had a bit of problems with Baldock. He had hurt his knee going into the finals, and then to lose Carl Ditterich was another blow to us. But in fairness to Carl, I remember him, he asked me could he go and speak to the players before the game, and he apologised for the players for letting them down, and then he said, you know, I just hope you go and win a grand final, teach me a very severe lesson, and I did, and it was unfortunate he didn't have the opportunity to represent the club because, you know, you can't write the history of the St Kilda Football Club without mentioning a player like Carl Ditterich.
He was a worrying sort of player to the opposition because you never knew what Big Carl was likely to do, and he created a bit of fear around the place. But I think it sort of steeled players to just lift and give a little bit more and prove that we were a reasonably good side.
I know that when Carl played on the ground or played, soft players walked tall.
The loss of the big man was not the only concern for the worried St Kilda hierarchy. Baldock had severely injured his knee. With a final home and away match against Hawthorn looming, St Kilda was in danger of slipping out of the final 4.
I think one of the biggest decisions we had to make during the year, Baldock was carrying the injured knee, and he went to the races out at Sandown or Caulfield that particular day. He watched the first race. He was ruled out of the side. He came back, and we were playing Hawthorn on that day, and Drakey was following me around the room, and he said, we should play the Bulldog. And I said, we can't, we've ruled him out. The medical advice is he wasn't to play. And Drakey said, well, if we don't make the finals, there's no sense at all waiting for him. He kept following me around the room. I later had a discussion with Darryl and I said, would you play? And he said, oh, I don't know. I said, would you sit on the bench? And he agreed to sit on the bench. And so we altered the side at the last minute, and I remember walking down the race, the medical people weren't too pleased with my actions, and they said, we are not accepting any responsibility in relation to his knee. As the game progressed, we were playing at Moorabbin, and as the game progressed, Hawthorn was on top of us and giving us a bit of hide, and we need to win this game to, I think, hold second position. And I'm saying to Doc, I think you better go on, Doc. And he said, oh, just hang on for a moment, just hang on for a moment. And I was getting late, and I said, we've got to make the move shortly, Doc, as it's all finished. And he got up and he warmed up, and he ran along in front of the grandstand, and just to every person in the grandstand, they just raised and clapped him. And he ran onto the field, and from that point, he just turned the game around, and we won the game. And there's some of the decisions you've got to make, but that's knowing your players and knowing your personnel, how they'll respond at certain stages. And I suppose that's one of the most important decisions we had to make that day, and I can assure you I was under an enormous amount of pressure when I made them.
St Kilda finished in second spot. Stewart won the Brownlow medal, joining Hayden Bunton and Dick Reynolds as back-to-back winners. In 1966, he polled 21 votes to win by 4 from John Nichols, with Baldock tied for 4th on 14. The mantle of greatness has never sat easily with Stewart. Years later, when Stewart was named the #1 player in the club's history ahead of Tony Lockett and Darryl Baldock, the emotion and feeling were heartfelt when he talked of his fellow Tasmanian.
It's very embarrassing when you've been named #1 in the Heroes with Halos, and you know categorically there's somebody twice as good as you. But Doc was my hero. I first saw him play when he was captain and coach of Tasmania at 20 years of age to play against Victoria. Baldock was a genius and is a genius. With apologies to Russell, Darryl has been easily our greatest player. To watch him play in front of him, he was unbelievable. I'm sorry to hear that he's not well, but Darryl was, or is, all of us that have seen him play, he was a magnificent player and a great captain. And as I think Alan said, or somebody said, that when Darryl played, well, we won.
Baldock's moment in history was nearing. For the second semi-final, skipper Baldock was ready to resume his full-time duties. His knee passed fit, while Deputy Verdon Howell had recovered from a broken jaw he'd copped against Carlton.
The thing is, I wasn't nearly going to play in '66 because I think through disappointment of making the grand final, and I was 28 at the time, and I sort of had injuries, and the disappointment, you think, well, you may not get there again because it takes a hell of a lot of work to get there. And anyway, Des Nisbet said, look, don't be silly, have another year. And gee, I'm grateful that we did, but I think the thing that held us in reasonable stead, we did it the other way. We got beaten by Collingwood in the second semi-final, and that was a very small margin. And then we played Essendon in the prelim final, and of course it was a bit damp that day, and I always thought we were a better wet weather side, and we walloped them.
At the age of 24, Ross Oakley's football career ended in the second semi-final. After 62 games, crippling knee injuries had cost him a place in successive grand finals. 2 decades after his teammates took their place in history, Oakley would re-emerge as the most powerful man in football, as the Chief Executive Officer of the AFL.
The first time it happened, it was a guy called Jimmy Guttison from Footscray, played full back for Footscray, and I was leading out and went for a mark, landed on the ground, and Jimmy landed with his foot in my knee joint, and it just went, and that was the end of it, really. I tried to come back, but in those days there wasn't the same rehabilitation expertise that there is today, and it just kept going on me. I played a full year in '66, and then under the pressure of the finals it went again.
62-27 they lead.
The preliminary final was a rematch of the 1965 Grand Final. Essendon, the reigning premiers under John Coleman, against Alan Jeans's Saints. Heavy weather had left the MCG sodden, and with its Tasmanian influence headed by Stuart, Howell and the irrepressible Baldock, St Kilda was outright favourite. And so it proved. Nearly 7 goals up at half-time, St Kilda looked to have the game sewn up. The third quarter was goalless, the last offering 9 goals as St Kilda ran away and into a second successive grand final.
Griffiths. The Saints come marching in. The ball towards Neil. Neil up high and over to Alan Morrow, his third goal, I think. The lion-hearted one, Alan Morrow.
It comes across to skipper Ken Fraser. Fraser from the half-forward line has his kick smothered. It comes across to Breen. Breen kicks it off the ground. Out towards the centre wing, and the players are covered in mud. Picked up by Gosper, and the siren's gone. Alan Jeans, the jubilant St Kilda coach, being congratulated by his confreres. And St Kilda have won the preliminary final.
Jeans had learned his lesson in 1965. There would be no repeat of the frenzied grand final week build-up. Such was the interest in St Kilda's first premiership that the BBC sent a crew from London to record the build-up. Skipper Baldock was an obvious target.
I like to come up here because it gives you a tremendous, from a football point of view, relaxation that, especially in the city, right through a football season, the tension and the pressure that's applied upon you, more so this last week because of the final series and the big match, of course, coming up on Saturday. And I find here that the open country, no one virtually knows you, and you can certainly relax and really enjoy life. I suppose there's no place like Melbourne, in Australia certainly, that has this fanatical atmosphere or approach to a league football match.
Full marks for acting had to go to Brian Sierakowski. He had the film crew out on Port Phillip Bay as he prepared with a dash of water skiing. Even in the interviews, the laid-back Sierra was content to have the cigarette dangling from the right hand.
He would be classed as, well, say in England, your greatest soccer player. Well, Darryl Baldock out here is what we call Mr. Magic. He seems to be able to control the ball like it's on a yo-yo.
The final training run at Moorabbin was drama-packed. Unbeknown to bystanders, Baldock aggravated his knee injury. Jeans called off training and called everyone inside.
The MCG, the grand final, St Kilda versus Collingwood. And there we find the Saints going into action. Baldock has the opportunity. He won the toss and elected to...
While the BBC offered a different perspective, it was the Channel 7 coverage with Mike Williamson, Ted Whitten and Butch Gale that is regarded as the historic reminder of one of football's great matches.
Takes his kick. Oh, it's a long one too. It's going to the goal square. They face a mark. Kevin Neal has put it through. Neal marked from behind and put it right through, and the first goal of the game came up after 3 minutes of play. The first goal to the Saints. There he is, Cowboy Neil from South Warrnambool.
It sort of looked from this position that Neil should have received a free kick, but Crouch is a lot closer than what we are, Michael.
Morrow, Waters can't get his kick. Stacks on the mill once again. Here's a chance for Griffiths to Baldock. Baldock is grabbed. He's playing on. And Baldock is getting the free kick.
It's against him. It's against him. Should have been against him.
Righto, what's your decision? Baldock shouldn't have got it.
That's right.
Which go? What do you feel?
Definitely not.
Right, Baldock now is 30 yards out directly in front. He's already kicked one goal. It's on its way. It looks pretty straight from here. It's right through the centre.
Well, that's a decent let out for St Kilda, because I can assure you that was no free kick. He was playing the ball and was tackled, and he had every right to be tackled. Got the free kick, and anyhow you can't change the decision. 6-7 now to 6-6. And it's play on over to Reid. Reid in trouble, picked up by Patterson. He goes through with the left foot, kicks into the centre. Oh, a chance for Hutchinson. He couldn't hold it. It's Stewart now playing the ball along the ground. Goes round on the left foot. Oh! Tuddenham just about took him. And a good mark to Cooper. Oh, boy, was Stewart lucky then.
Gee, Cooper was going to play off then too, Butch. Did you notice him with the ball out on the outstretched palm of his hand?
Yeah. Will he get the distance? He's a good long way out. Oh, it's a mighty kick.
It's a beauty, I'll tell you what.
Three-quarter time, St Kilda 4 points up. Jeans with one last chance to fire up his men.
Like you never fought before. 25 minutes to make a name for yourself like you never made before.
The last quarter was one of the most dramatic in football history. Only 5 goals scored, but the tension unbelievable.
Bingley up to centre half forward for St Kilda. Here's a go. Griffiths pushes it on. And through it goes from the boot of Moran. Well, Moran broke clear, but Minot was the boy responsible for that. It's 25 yards out from the St Kilda goal. There's the bounce. Morrow goes for it. Big Gabelich is there. Oh, Baldock overran the ball then. Player struggling to get clear. Picked up by Gabelich. His kick is not a particularly good one. Henderson loses it. Oh, he's grabbed there. Struggles it forward. Picked up by Moran. Moran kicks into the goal square.
Neil.
Kevin Neil has marked 10 yards out directly in front. He's kicked 4. He's kicking to the scoreboard end. Can he put it through?
I hope he's not overconfident, Michael.
Up he comes, 10 yards out directly in front. The pressure's right on the boy from South Warrnambool. He kicks, he's put it right through. 18 and a half minutes gone. 18 and a half minutes of the final quarter gone.
Oh, poor Potter, look at him.
Oh, these players are so
This is
weary.
madness. They're all
Then, the most famous wobbly punt ever to slip off a boot.
Has it? He can't break clear. It's taken by Green. It's a point. It's a point. St Kilda in front. St Kilda in front.
How long have they been playing, Mike?
They have been playing. If my hand will stop shaking, I can see the watch. 27 and a half minutes. 27 and a half minutes. There's the kick out. Up they go. Nobody able to break clear. Across it goes here towards Hill. Hill tries a hand pass to Henderson. He's tackled by Morrow. And we find the ball being driven forward. It's at centre half forward for St Kilda. Why not? He'll be paid the mark.
Slow it down. Slow it down.
Yes, he's taking your advice, all right, Ted. Can the Saints hang on and win their first ever?
They've got it.
Oh, golly me.
Why not with the ball now? Comes up. It's going to be a good
That's
long
a magnificent kick. It's a
right
ripper. They set themselves up. They go. And we find a magnificent mark taken by Waters once again. He goes across the face of goals. He kicks to the flank position on that outer side. They set themselves. There's a go. Tuddenham, a break. Tuddenham kicks to centre half forward. They set themselves. And a mark to Bob Murray. A mark to Murray. 28 and a half minutes gone.
Hit the boundary line.
28 and a half gone. There's Murray's kick to the wing position on the outer side. There's the siren. St Kilda have got it. They've got it. Look at this. Look at Alan James. Alan James. Oh, what an emotional scene this is. An emotional scene. Alan James. Look at him. Bobby Rose, look at Bobby Rose, a great sportsman coming over to congratulate him.
There were tales of disappointment. In the stands, the suspended Ditterich, flanked by the injured Oakley and the veteran Doggy Rowland, who'd been omitted.
At the end of the game, we could see the result, and we raced down through the rooms and onto the ground. So we did experience some of the pleasure, but it's not quite like being out there.
My memories were a great disappointment, Stephen, because I was the one that got dropped. And I played all year, and I missed out that day.
And you sat in the stand, with Oakley and Ditterich?
And sat beside Carl Ditterich that day, yeah. But it was a great day for the club. I played in the 65 grand final. Unfortunately missed the 66 one, but that's how things went in those days.
Baldock and Tuddenham on the podium. Jumpers exchanged. The dock in the enemy, black and white. The last time the league would allow such sentiment.
It wasn't a great game of footy, and I've seen the footage since, and but it was hard and close, and we were able to hang in there, and lucky for Bruni's point. But there's, a lot of blokes had worked hard for it, and I think they deserved it.
Yes, it was a very emotional time for everybody concerned, and here came the day that we thought would never ever happen, and see so many people so happy. I mean, the rooms were packed. I don't know who was on the door, but he didn't do a very good job. By the time we got in there, there's women and the players' wives and girlfriends, and there was just a moment of exhilaration and jubilation, and it's always difficult when the moment happens and you're fortunate enough to be a part of it. It was always difficult to find the right words to say at that stage to cover the situation. I don't think any person can really express themselves the way that to fit such a great moment in the history of the club.
The Baldock jumper, by the way, finally found its way back to Moorabbin, kindly donated by Des Tuddenham through an intermediary. It's one of the tragedies of modern football that the Junction Oval is no longer a league venue. This is a ground with a tale to tell. From the very inception of the VFL in 1897, it was the home to the St Kilda Football Club. It was here that the Saints had a terrible baptism into the big time. In their first 4 years, they didn't win a single game. 24 times in succession, they lost here on their home ground from 1897. In their first 6 years in the VFL, they won twice. So bad were they that a local magistrate once told a prisoner he could stay in jail until St Kilda won its next game. A virtual life sentence. In 1913, the Saints dragged themselves out of the mire and reached the grand final, only to be beaten by Fitzroy.
And down at the junction there's a football ground, and that's where the Saints all hang around. So let's give 3 cheers for old St Kilda, for this year the premiers they may be.
Footy had a resurgence in the 1920s and big crowds flocked to suburban grounds. When the Saints fought out this drawn match in 1921 against Melbourne, the St Kilda Junction Oval was packed to the rafters. Unfortunately, both sides wore dark shorts, so we can't identify which side is which. St Kilda still wore red, yellow and black after changing in World War I. The Saints had some good teams, but could never quite go all the way. Yet, some of the game's greatest players of all time turned out for St Kilda. None was more famous than the legendary Dave McNamara, the longest kicker of a football ever. Seen here leading out the Saints against Collingwood in 1923 and tossing the coin. The Saints always had their share of stars. Here, Bill Cubbins, Cyril Gambetta, the 1925 Brownlow medalist Colin Watson and Horry Mason lead the team out. St Kilda had a barren era after the 1913 grand final, making the finals just once between the wars in 1929. In that year, St Kilda played the giant Tiny Mills. At 6'8", he was the tallest player in league football at this time. Ivor Warne-Smith of Melbourne won the toss against St Kilda's Bill Cubbins. Famous full forward Billy Moore in his first season can be seen in this goal square action. He's wearing number 10. Thanks to an amateur cameraman, we can see some of the stars of that team. Barney Carr, Bill Cubbins, Horry Mason. 1929, the St Kilda team before a game. The Saints always had a big following, especially when they had a sniff of success. Under the coaching of Ansel Clark, the Saints had a great side in 1939 and went within an ace of making the grand final. It took an 11-goal effort by Ron Todd in the preliminary final to put a halt to the run. It seemed a strange place to discuss the long, painful and relentless struggle St Kilda endured in the post-war years. The palatial Toorak mansion of trucking supremo Lindsay Fox, a battling footballer who's risen to become one of Australia's richest individuals. More than 100 past players, all with a story to tell. Let's meet 11 of them who endured those wilderness years between the 39 finals and the return to the MCG under Alan Jeans in 1961. Sam Snell joined St Kilda from Baruga in 1936 and 3 years later was a member of the Victorian team and in St Kilda's final sides.
We were so excited. We were one of a very few St Kilda players that had ever played in the semi-final or final. And, you know, that went on for a few years after too.
A member of St Kilda's final sides of 1939, Clary Vontom would go on and captain the club in late 1944 and 45.
My admittance to the experience of league football was delayed year after year because I'd been playing amateur football with Collegians, which is the old boys team of Wesley College. And because I was outstanding in that field and had won the A section cup there, I was a bit loath to leave there and risk playing in a higher grade competition because at heart I didn't really think I was good enough.
Keith Rosewarne lived out his childhood dream of wearing Bill Moore's number 10 as a member of St Kilda teams for 6 years in the post-war period. Over 92 games, the lightweight rover would rise to become a member of Victoria's carnival team in 1947.
Mum died when I was only 5 and it was during the Depression and I didn't know where my father was. And I used to kick a paper footy like a lot of blokes did in their, you know, in their early life. And the main thing about doing this, I used to have to do it all on my own. But I kicked these paper footies, I was never on a laneway. And then we formed at the back of the Luna Park, the Peanut Farm, we formed a club which wasn't affiliated with the senior side. They were called the St Kilda Thirds. And they were a group of players like Jimmy Ross and Desi Pickett and a few others. Neil Mann played for Collingwood. We formed the St Kilda Third side, and I was captain of that side at the age of 16. By the time that the war started, I wasn't old enough to go to the Middle East, and in 1942 I was old enough to go in the army, served in New Guinea and Borneo. And when I come back, I trained at the Ross Gregory Oval, and then I didn't think I'd ever, when I saw blokes like Roy Fountain, Reg Garvin, these blokes were only 6-foot ruckmen, they were enormous as far as I was concerned. I was picked in the first 11, first 18 in my first year and won the best and fairest in my first year.
Harold Bray, like Geelong's Karji Greaves, was runner-up in 3 Brownlow medals. He recalls the St Kilda that won 44 of 211 games between 1941 and 52 and won the Wooden Spoon 4 times.
I played under 8 coaches here in my period. Never heard a word they said. You'd see me out in the toilet, or if I had anything to eat before I played, I'd bring it up on the ground.
Harold, when you go back three times you came runner-up in the Brownlow medal, was the Brownlow medal as big a deal in the late 40s and early 50s as it is today?
Yes. Oh yes, I could have won 3, except I missed 2 games each time. In my last year I won second, and I retired in 52. I can't realise it, damn 45 years ago this year. The older you get, the quicker the time goes.
Alan Killigrew played only 78 games for St Kilda, was a member of its 1939 finals campaign and the club champion in 1940. But it was as a coach around the country that he instilled his passion for the game, his love of the Guernsey, his fierce desire and his hot gospeling.
People have got to believe in themselves, believe in their cause. We used to feed them what you said, we used to give them tremendous amount of it. We were here when it first happened. We've got no right to be the buffoons, or not that you need a right, but it isn't right that we were the buffoons or the clowns of the VFL. That wasn't our true position. We weren't Johnny-come-latelys. We were there when it all began.
He taught us that we had pride. We were just as good as anyone else. We had to keep running, back up, and he taught us to believe in ourselves. Now, self-belief was something that was really out the door before that. We depended on individuals. We had, some very good individuals, but he built teamwork. Killigrew built teamwork.
At the end of probably 1956, the VFL had night games at South Melbourne for the clubs that didn't make the finals. And St Kilda played South Melbourne in the very first of those games, and it was a bloodbath, I remember 36 fellas having a fight, full on, and half a dozen getting reported and stuff like that, after I got knocked out. I mean, it was the sort of night it was, and I was very distraught after the game, and I was at a stage that I didn't care whether I ever played football again, and Killigrew really got in my corner and he said, look, hang in there, you did well, you took everything they gave you. He said, you've got enough to win a Brownlow medal. And the next year, we went out and we played in the very first game again of that series against South Melbourne, and the night before I had been awarded the Brownlow medal.
In 1957, Sinner captained the under-19s to a flag. Over the next 3 years, he played only 4 games. A member of the 1965 and 66 grand final sides, he has vivid memories of the Killigrew impact.
He gave us something to fight for. He gave us something to be proud of. And I remember him standing on a table we had a presentation dinner one night down at some restaurant in St Kilda, and I remember I was only a young kid then, and they were presenting the jumpers, and he jumped up on the table and he grabbed his jumper and he threw it around his neck and he was saying, this is what we're playing for this year. This was about 2 weeks before the season started. Now this is the Red, White and Black. It's a fantastic club, and away he went, and everybody's eyes were nearly popping out of their head. And that was really the start of everything.
Recruited by Les Foote, Brian Gleeson played only 70 games in 5 seasons. He won the 1957 Brownlow by 4 votes from dual winner Roy Wright. He would never play another senior game. A knee injury ended his career.
I felt a personal tragedy in the whole thing. I tried very earnestly for 2 years to get back into the playing game, but the leg just didn't develop any power again. That was the problem.
Neil Roberts played his first game for St Kilda in 1952. In 11 seasons he would play 170 games and was captain between 1959 and 62. In 1958 he won the Brownlow medal, the Bunton medal, his second club best and fairest award, as well as dominating for Victoria at the Carnival in Melbourne.
The early years, I remember, we won 1 game in 20 matches, and of course that was a great rejoicing. We were a great club socially. But we were poor. We didn't have a doctor. We had a dentist, Dr. Harlem. We had great teeth, but our injuries were terrible, But we had so many changes of administration, new coaches. We had about 7 or 8 coaches, and that was bad.
Lindsay Fox was not one of the greatest players to represent St Kilda, but would rise to be one of its most influential administrators. Like many at the Junction Oval before him, he rose from humble beginnings.
I lived in Windsor. In St Kilda, I used to go with sandwich boards for the Windsor Theatre to let everybody know what was on at the movies Saturday night. After going down there for years, the Junction ground, I thought I'd have a run with the thirds. and I was residentially tied to Melbourne, but Bobby Wilkie was the coach and he lived in Hamilton Avenue, St Kilda, and they used that as the address for me to get registered as a St Kilda player. And I started in the thirds in 1955.
5 times Bill Young led St Kilda's goal kicking in the 50s, a 5'10" spearhead who may well have played in one of the league's great dynasties.
Melbourne chased me at the same time between 55 56 with the offer of a game. Also, I think I would have been probably Mobile's chairman after about a year or so. The offers were pretty good. But I decided that my chance of playing consistently at Melbourne were less than at St Kilda, and so I chose to go to the Saints, which I never ever regretted either.
Sale Football Club provided St Kilda with 2 champions in 1957, Premiership hero Alan Morrow and a burly forward named Bill Stevenson. By 1960, Steve-O was playing for Victoria. In 1963, at the age of 26, a knee injury ended his career.
Met a bloke by the name of Bear McCarthy, Brian McCarthy, and we kicked the football together. We went into the boxing troop together, and he influenced me then to go and have a practice match against Neil Roberts, who we just heard interrupt us. And you want me to go on with this?
Yeah, go on.
And played a practice match against him, kicked 4 goals on him. The fellas called me in. It was Alan Killigrew. He said, I want you to sign a Form 4. I said, my dad, I'm only 19. I said, my dad told me not to sign a Form 4. He said, hold on, he said, and he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pound notes up to 100 pound notes. And I hadn't seen 100 pound notes before, so I put pen to paper very quickly.
I feel he could have won more, and I think a lot of people do feel that way too. But I like Jeans's coaching. I like what he does. He depends on the back 6. He sews it up first, makes it solid, and then he goes. And he's a physical coach, and that's what I liked about him. Hit the body and the brain will die, and that's what he lived by.
If everything went St Kilda's way in 1966, then 1967 was a nightmare. Ditterich was called up for national service, Stewart was sidelined after being involved in a car accident, and Ian Cooper was selected for Victoria only to withdraw after contracting rheumatic fever. Then there was the round 5 match against Carlton at Moorabbin. Just before half-time, Fred Farrell, the famous St Kilda timekeeper, resorted to an old handheld bell to signal half-time after the siren failed. As the crowd roared to field umpire Jeff Crouch to halt proceedings, John Gill of Carlton kicked a goal. 5 points up at the break, it would be the final margin. The first of 4 straight losses, then 7 straight wins culminating in this 63-point victory over Hawthorn at Moorabbin.
Knocked away by Dunshea. Dunshea loses the run of it, and it's Ross Smith in the play now, picking the ball up and cleverly getting out of trouble. Beautifully gives it across to Kevin Roberts, and there's a long kick by Roberts. It's a great kick, and it's a goal. That's Poole. He turns onto his left and slams it out to the wide open spaces, looking for a forward in Rod Olsen, who's been moved from the half-back flank to the half-forward flank. Darryl Griffiths wins out against his opposition, number 25, punches it about 20 yards downfield. And that's Angus falling over. He couldn't get his kick. Ross Smith doesn't bother about a kick. He hand punches it to Roberts. Gee, he's played well. And Roberts' long kick gets it up towards the full-forward zone, over the head of Cowboy Neal. He hasn't had a good day today. Shoved in the back all over. Off by Ditterich, I think. Yes, it was. Good play, Cal. Keddy's going quick about it. The drop kick. That's not a bad kick either. Up to where the big men are, and Bobby Murray's in front of them, and he can get off the ground like a spring heel jack to take a good mark. The last 2 years, Bob Murray's really developed and would probably be the best fullback in the league, I'd say at the moment. Here's Trott. There's another good player St Kilda have picked up this year too, believe you me. Beautifully balked in, as I mentioned him. He gets the ball up to the half-forward line. Bremner comes out. You've got to go behind the ball. An easy one for Breen. St Kilda score now 11-10. Hawthorn 4-6.
What a season. The last 3 rounds saw St Kilda lose to the top sides of 67, Carlton and Richmond, but a final round win over Collingwood at Moorabbin was not enough to push the Saints into the finals. If there was some salve for finishing 5th in 67, it was the performance of Ross Smith in winning the Brownlow medal, the 3rd St Kilda win in as many years. Smith would captain and coach the club in years ahead and is revered as one of the true champions of the red, white and black.
Smith eventually gets the kick. It's a high one. Price comes out to get it. Richardson comes in. Richardson had it, but he's lost it to Smith of St Kilda.
He was a person that seeked the limelight. He didn't want to have a high profile, but I was possibly one of the finest persons that I had the pleasure of coaching. He was a very talented little player. He mightn't have been as polished as some of the great rovers, but he was a desperate player. He had enormous courage, and he was a great leader in the club, and his quiet manner. And no, Rossi's possibly the finest person that I had the pleasure of coaching.
As Ian Sinman and Verdon Howell joined Morrow in retirement from league ranks, St Kilda showed some signs of resurgence in 68. Carl Ditterich was fearsome, big, fast and lethal. Against the reigning premiers Richmond at Moorabbin during the season, he amassed the merest of 29 kicks and 16 marks, in a performance that prompted Tom Hafey to describe him as a 6'5" rover.
19th kick for the game. They're kicking to centre half forward. Moore was up high, but Ditterich up higher than him.
Oh, Sprang came out of the air, pushed the player out of the road with his open hand, and that's quite legitimate. And there's Big Carl.
68 would be Baldock's final season with the club. He was 30 years old and played 119 games, kicking 236 goals. The Brownlow medal was the only football honour to have eluded him. Premiership captain, Victorian captain, All-Australian captain, triple best and fairest, 4 times leading goal kicker and winner of numerous media awards. His deputy of 6 years, Verdon Howell, would retire too after 159 games, 9 interstate games, the best and fairest in 1959. But Howell would have to wait until the late 80s before he collected his long overdue Brownlow at a presentation of retrospective awards to those who'd tied for the medal.
Verdon Howell is a devout family man. Most of his time is spent with his grandchildren, and if they had their way, more of their time would be spent with Pa. Verdon and Lorraine Howell have 4 daughters and 4 grandchildren. 2 of the daughters, Leonie and Charlene, live in Tasmania, and for years Leonie had felt her father should have received a Brownlow medal when he tied with Bobby Skilton in 1959 and took the matter into her own hands.
I'd written several letters, and I've been on talkback radio here in Tassie. They've phoned me from Hobart and a few things like that, and written to various people, and most I got very favourable response from it. And it was, I think it was Collingwood's bit of effort that pushed it in.
That was all behind Dad's back.
Yes, he needed to know.
He's quite modest, but we were thrilled, and we're very proud and feel fortunate that we weren't born when it was when he first won it, but now we're a big part of it.
And to make the presentation, Bob Skilton.
In 1968, St Kilda would introduce the youth and vigour of players like Gary Colling, John Manzie, John Lilly and John O'Donnell. From north came the Pascoe brothers, Big Bob and Ruck Rover Barry. The Saints would run hot, win 7 of the first 8 games. They annihilated Collingwood at Victoria Park. The Magpies kept to a goal until 3/4 time and 2 for the match.
St Kilda are missing Ross Smith, taken by Trott. Trott kicks the ball into the full forward area. They've had Baldock on since half-time. Started off in the reserves bench. It was a surprise move. Got a great round when he came onto the field. Cowboy Neal, who's kicked 2 goals too, missed 2 sitters. The ball was right across into the far pocket. Verdon Howell on the move here. He's being tackled by Green. Verdon Howell looking for a hand pass. Gives it to John O'Donnell. O'Donnell quickly gets it onto his boot, and it should be a goal.
That was very good play. I thought Verdon Howell did a remarkable job there. He kept at it, made an error, recovered, but eventually gave a telling handball. And another goal is the result for St Kilda, and it's a very valuable one. Bob Murray, look at that for a drop kick. Beautiful. The mark in front to Graham O'Donnell. And he's doing pretty well. This is going to be his 17th kick from 3 good marks. There's O'Donnell's kick. Up towards the half-forward line, and it's a St Kilda mark. This time it's been marked by John Manzie. He's on a half-forward flank. Kicks it high in the air to a short pass from Neal. It's over the head of the pack. Neil's got the big chance. Turns, kicks, a left footer. Beautiful goal by Neil.
Going into this game against Hawthorn in round 11 at Glenferrie, they'd won 7 and lost 3. But this day St Kilda was in sensational form. In a high-scoring final quarter, 14 goals were scored, honours even at 7 apiece.
He runs right into the open goal, and within a matter of 10 seconds of the bounce, it's a goal to St Kilda to put them 2 goals in front. It's going to bounce towards Baldock. Baldock has a ball plucked away from him by Olsen, who shepherds for Angus to get his kick. There's 2 St Kilda players. Didrich in the back. Oh, and the general. That was a command.
For youngsters like Gary Colling, it was a time to look up to the side's champions.
One of the earliest, my first practice game. I used to play for a club that had Essendon colours, and the opposition club, or the opposition set of jumpers were Essendon, and I handballed to one of my teammates, and Carl's given me the greatest bake of all time. And I was that petrified I didn't go near him for a month, but certainly when you're playing with him, I mean, you walk 10 feet tall, and I think half the time Carl never knew the trail of destruction he left behind him with those flailing elbows of his.
St Kilda had to win the last home and away game of the season to make the finals. They did just that by thrashing Geelong by 51 points. Just 1 week later, they met again, this time in the first semi-final of 68. It would be Baldock's last game as a Saint. What a difference that week made. Geelong, miles too good, winning by 44 points. A 95-point turnaround in 7 days.
Came in to fill the full forward position. A pick up here, sends the ball forward, and it looks like Baldock.
St Kilda made the necessary changes in 1969, installing Stewart as captain. They found another Tasmanian star in Barry Lawrence and introduced talented teenagers in Glenn Elliott and Stephen Ray. They were bolstered by the improved form of Travis Pays. Still, the Saints could only finish 7th. Dieterich and the cowboy Kevin Neal took much of the workload. Neal, like Brownlow medalist Colin Watson, had come from South Warrnambool, but there the similarity ends. Neal played a record 256 games with St Kilda. He was tough, burly and gave immense service on and off the field. The cowboy had the gait and was an awesome sight at full gallop.
Breaking away from the pack onto the left foot, he shoots the goal. It's another one.
He's a very gifted player, and I always believed that he could have won a Brownlow medal if he had applied himself in the correct manner, but it was his nature. He was one of the most humorous blokes that I've ever coached. Cowboy. He's very quick-witted, but he was very lazy, and to get him to do things was always very difficult. And I believed if he applied himself in the right manner, he could have achieved anything in the football world, but he did achieve a lot. There's no worries about that. And of course, the 66 grand final, what did he kick 5 goals on that day? That's one of his humorous jokes.
My dad died early in the 70s, and Jeansy really sort of took over as my second dad, really. And a lot of people thought he was my dad because I kept getting games, Greeny and I.
Dieterich was reported 3 times in 1970, suspended once for 2 matches on abusive language, and then collected 4 weeks in this incident with Ken Greenwood. Moorabbin was undergoing a facelift. The social club stand was opened, and here club secretary Ian Drake takes reporter Maury Kirby on a tour of the facilities. The ping pong room was a crowd favourite. On the field, however, a long list of injuries to players like Smith, who'd taken over as captain from Ian Stewart, O'Day, Breen, Neal, Lilly and Stewie meant the Saints were struggling to keep in touch with 4th place. Against Collingwood at home in the second last round, they were overrun in the final term. They made the finals in 1970 and in front of a record first semi-final crowd of 104,000 played South Melbourne, who were in the finals for the first time since the bloodbath in 1945.
Only 6 points the difference. A bad error by Walstead. The unforgivable sin to kick into the man on the mark. Now Lawrence is only 40 yards out on an angle. He's kicked 1 goal up to now. Huge crowd here at the MCG. Drop punt. Through. And scores a ring. Chance there for Neal, who's had a bad day. Hoffman kicks in towards centre half forward. Streaking across there was Murphy. Ducks aside though. Masenko moves through nicely. Takes it. Hand passes to Moran. Moran in trouble. Moran in towards Manzi's kick goes up towards the forward pocket. They're moving for it, Lambert. And through comes Barry Lawrence. Oh, very good football. He has a shot at goal. It's short and Breen takes it. It was touched and play on. And Breen snaps at goal. It's a guilty! There's a very good goal there to Barry Breen. There's a chance for Hoffman and Lilly. Hoffman gets it out on that left foot. He's been a handy boy. Skilton behind the pack. Couldn't get it. It's tapped down towards the centre half forward position. Murphy comes through. Solid. Oh, strong and was bundled over. And the hand pass now going to Manzi. Manzi just gets the kick in. Up towards the half-back line. Up they come, a chance for Jacob. Stickridge gets it. He puts a long one in towards the forward pocket and a player on his own there. Is Theodore, is it? Yes, Theodore. 15 yards out and he has one goal on the board up to this stage. Good play there by St Kilda. And another one through the middle. Very steady in this third quarter.
Ian Stewart came into the side for the preliminary final against Carlton. Another record crowd, 108,000. The firepower of Carlton, though, would prove too strong, and the Blues were on the way to a grand final showdown with Collingwood and one of the great premierships in history. West Australian recruit John McIntosh, one of St Kilda's best players that day, capped a season that saw him finish 5th in the Brownlow medal.
To White. White gets a kick up towards Jackson. Jackson moves through. Couldn't mark. McIntosh took it right out of his hand.
But then came the biggest football story in years. Ian Stewart was to be swapped to Richmond for Tiger Premiership star Billy Barrett.
Have Richmond promised to play you in the centre?
No, they haven't. There's been no discussion.
Well, let's say it this way. Is this one of the reasons why you left St Kilda, because you weren't played in the centre this year so much?
There was only one game that I wasn't played in the centre, and that was a final. And then I was moved into the centre after a quarter of an hour or something like that. Now, I've got no complaints about not being played in the centre for one game. Leading up to that game, I'd missed 3 or 4 of the last 5 games, so really there was a cloud over my head about fitness, and the club decided to play me on the flank.
Well, talking about fitness, you have been plagued by injury at St Kilda. What makes you think you'll change this at Richmond?
Well, that's, I've had some bad luck over the last couple of years, and I feel that it's only luck, and there's no reason why in 1971 I shouldn't play every game without injury.
While Stewart would go on and win the Brownlow medal at Richmond in 1971, joining Bunton, Reynolds and Skilton as triple winners of football's most prestigious individual award, Barrett would last 7 quarters of footy with his new club. In 1971, St Kilda, with a club record 16 wins, finished second on the league ladder to Hawthorn. On grand final day, all talk centred on Hawks spearhead Peter Hudson, who needed just 4 goals to equal and 5 to break Bob Pratt's goal-kicking record of 150 in a league season.
Shepherd for him, but Neil bowls him over, who's come right into the game in this third quarter. Gets it up towards centre half forward. It's Wilson, a desperate tackle, makes him unload the ball quickly, taken by Trott. Oh, what a shot!
I remember on the Thursday night when we had our team meeting, I was saying to the players, we have to concede Hudson a few goals because he's playing so well. I said, you know, so don't become over-conscious in relation to Hudson. He's going to kick 4 or 5, even 6 goals because he's playing so well. We'll concede that. And a voice down the back of the room said he can't do it if he's unconscious. And it came from a big fat bloke sitting down back, and it was Cowboy Neil. It came from his direction anyway. And of course, you know what happened in the first semi-final. Hudson happened to be going past and he tripped and went to the ground and took him a long time to recover. I think that might have stopped him also from breaking the record on that particular day.
Whoa! Through came Murray there. The ball knocked away. Looks like Murray's in a bit of trouble. They go through.
With Murray injuring his knee early, the job of minding Hudson would fall on the hands of a fellow Tasmanian, Barry Lawrence.
Towards Theodore over in the wing position. Theodore balks corner. Well done, Theodore. Comes around the wing on the outer side. In towards the half forward. A good mark. A short mark taken in there by Kelvin Moore. Back in the centre, the ball is bounced by umpire Peter Shields. There they go. Ball knocked away by Scott. Off further afield for Hawthorn. Lawrence is after it, but who's coming in from the side? It's Judson. Judson screws it around, but Rice is standing there. Rice takes the mark. Kicks it down forward. Keddy's marked. Keddy's marked. Overdue. Hudson. Hudson's
St Kilda went into the last quarter leading by 20 points. It's history now that Bob Keddy, who'd struggled for a kick, would boot 4 goals. The Hawks home by 7 points.
Well, Mike, it gives it for a moment. Keddy is 12 yards out, directly in front, put it through.
I suppose that grand final was one of the toughest games that I've ever been involved in. It was genuine, hard football, and I remember a few years later we were struggling, and I thought I'd show the players the tape. We were playing Hawthorn, and I thought I'll pull the tape out and show the boys, but I think I frightened a few of them because it didn't work the right way. The psychology wasn't the right effect.
1972, when the VFL introduced the Final 5, and the elimination final against Essendon would be the first final ever played at VFL Park Waverley. 72 had been a controversial year. The John Greening incident had left a sour taste. Behind closed doors, the League Tribunal had suspended St Kilda's Jimmy O'Day for 10 weeks, finding him guilty of striking the Magpie champ. Footscray's Stephen Boyle lost the sight in his eye after Cowboy Neil's outstretched arm caught him across the face. The first semi-final against Collingwood at the MCG was expected to revive bitter memories of the Greening saga earlier in the year. The Magpies were totally overshadowed. Big Carl was in spectacular form. The Saints by 3 goals.
The flank where it favours Big Carl. Big Carl catapults over Barry Price. Certainly are playing well over the last 10 minutes. A short pass here doesn't come off. Manzi comes in, shoots for goal. It's going towards the pocket. Up goes the pick back of players. Comes to the ground. Stevens there, shoots over his shoulder. And it's a goal!
I would say he would be a good 55 to 60 yards out. It's on its way, it's dropping short and a bit offline. Oborn couldn't hold it, but out comes Eakins with the ball. Eakins of Collingwood now goes along the outer stand flank, and a mark there to Jeff Moran of St Kilda. Siren goes, and St Kilda go one step further to the flag.
Carlton went on and beat St Kilda in the preliminary final and won the 1972 Premiership in record-breaking style. Carl Ditterich was off to Melbourne on a $62,000 contract under the 10-year rule. St Kilda just couldn't afford to keep him.
Carl, as a player to play against, fearsome type player. Probably one of the few times I've been frightened on the football field was when I hit Carl in front of the members of the MCG when he was playing with Melbourne. He got up, and that concerned me a lot because there was a lot of minutes to go in the game. So he got his own back, fixed me up in the last quarter.
From Western Australia came All-Australian George Young for a hefty fee of $20,000. The former state cricketer would top the goal-kicking 4 years in a row and kick 283 goals in only 108 games. Young would produce a Baldock-like performance in the elimination final of 1973, kicking 6 goals from his 25 kicks and 14 marks against Essendon.
That's not a good kick by Young, but he looks like he might find Trott. Trott going into an open goal from 20 metres out. Shoots at goal. The umpire indicates all clear, and Stewie Trott has now kicked St Kilda's 10th goal.
Trott goes for the bounce, about to go for the second bounce, decides to go for the placement kick. It's not a good one up towards the forward pocket. A big hand pass came out from Colling up there, taken by Minot, given across towards George Young, and away he goes. It's his third as St Kilda now.
The first semi was deadlocked at three-quarter time, Richmond ahead by the merest of 7 points. In the final term, the Saints were completely overrun. Ian Stewart outstanding against his old team. The Tigers by 40 points on the way to the 1973 Premiership.
Line the ball up. It's a beautiful kick from Stewart. Right through the centre.
The golden era of St Kilda was drawing to a close. This would be the last appearance by the Saints in a final for 18 years.
To be successful in the football world, the formula is a very simple one. A good administration of the football club has got to provide 3 things, I believe, to be successful. There's money, players and a coaching staff that can extract the best out of them. But unfortunately, in my latter years as coach there, we were starting to run into serious financial problems, and it was a bit difficult to hold our players.
Among the youngsters called on was Russell Green, who made his debut as a 16-year-old in 1974.
So I was just a young kid coming up. 73, I was in the 2s and the 3rds, and I was very fortunate. John Manzi was injured, and I got a game on the wing early 1974, and it was like a dream come true as a kid.
In 1974, St Kilda finished 10th its worst season since 1958. In the months ahead, Premiership teammates Jeff Moran and Travis Pays crossed to VFA club Dandenong. Stewie Trott was dumped as vice-captain, a bitter pill after being replaced as skipper by Barry Lawrence at the start of '73. He would walk out and head for Hawthorn and a place on the wing in their 1975 grand final side. The blonde hair and the incredible leap would be the trademarks of a youngster named Trevor Barker, who stepped into the big time in 1975. Barker was the first little leaguer to graduate into senior football, and for the next 20 years he would occupy a special place in the hearts of every St Kilda fan.
Opportunity to mark the ball, but he misses it. Here's Barker, screws around under his right foot at the goals, and he's put it through for full points.
I had a lot of respect for Trevor. The way in which he conducted himself on the ground. He would play against blokes who were probably 20 kilo heavier, 4 or 5 inches taller, and on most occasions, the vast majority of occasions, would come out on top. He had the playboy image, which he exploited to its fullest, but there was one thing he did better than that, and it was the way in which he conducted himself on the ground. Enormous courage, the best tackler I've ever seen in my life, and he had a huge amount of pride, and it was rarely ever beaten against blokes who were much bigger. Bark should have been a half-forward flanker, ruck rover come half-forward flanker, but he was asked to play full-back, centre-back, even centre-half forward. He was, in my opinion, one of the best players, and I've played with Matthews and Knights and Tuck and these blokes, and Barks is he's up there with them. He was tremendous, absolutely tremendous.
Between 1961 and 1976, Alan Jeans coached St Kilda in 332 games and into 9 finals campaigns, far and away the most by any coach in the club's history. He'd been there at the helm for 16 years. Disgracefully, the club elected not to pay him for the last 6. No other coach had lasted 5 seasons.
Saints go marching in. I want to be there in September when the Saints go marching in.
From 1977, St Kilda would plunge into a downward spiral that would see the club back to the bad old days of the immediate post-war years. Under a string of coaches and 7 different captains, the Saints would win the Wooden Spoon 6 times, finish second last twice and 10th once in 10 years.
The St Kilda boys were known as drinkers and blokes who used to entertain themselves off the field, and unfortunately that didn't overflow onto the playing arena, and we didn't win many games.
They were fun off the field and rugged on the field, but the Saints could convert that into only 45 wins from 220 games. 11 of those wins coming in 1978, when the former Richmond ruckman Mike Patterson coached them to 6th. The skipper was Gary Colling.
Oh, a kick off the ground was dangerous, but no free kick forthcoming over to Baum. Baum goes for a hand pass, booted forward by Einstedel, up towards and takes the ball.
I think 78 was the last time that we really looked as though we were going to be a formidable side. I think at the end of that period, though, or at the end of 78, players such as Dittrich, Phil Stevens, Rob and Glenn Elliott, Rex Hunt, may have even been Gary Sidebottom at the time as well, left. There are a number of players who had played a hell of a lot of games, and I just don't think the club had the foresight to think that all those players may have gone in that one particular time. I know there was myself, Bruce Duper-Uzel and probably Barry Breen left it and virtually in their twilight of our careers, and I just think that the club didn't have the role models as such to carry through, and it was a big ask of a lot of the young guys to come through, and as it proved in the late 70s and in the early 80s, we really did struggle.
Against Essendon in round 7, the Saints were at their meanest. Sidebottom would be suspended for 4 matches. St Kilda was described as a team of animals by their opponents. The Ballarat Brigade was making itself felt. Gary Lofts from Beaufort was a noted mud runner. Against South in round 19, he kicked 7 as St Kilda made a late charge towards the 5.
It's a beautiful goal. It's over the head of the pack. Lofts coming through. Lofts are running to the open goal, and there it is. It's the way by Wright.
gathered in by Jellier. Jellier, quick handball across to Lofts, and Lofts, it's a magnificent kick by Lofts.
Half-forward zone, and Lofts under the ball again, plays on quickly. I thought he would look for Saru, but he's gone goalward again. Another goal. Punched away by James, kicked on too by Colling. There's an opportunity, chance for Lofts again. Into the open goals, he strides.
Down, almost a mark to O'Keefe. Lofts throws the ball out in front of him, now picks it up, has another side goal. And you wouldn't want to know, it's number 7.
Caddo took over, came from Adelaide, very successful club, Mike Patterson. And there was side bottom there, and Carl, they had a very big side, very strong, fit side. And I think probably then was realised that we were stiff because of some mid-season whinging from Essendon, which cost us a few games, a few suspensions. Otherwise, we probably would have played off in the finals, and we beat the top 5 sides in the way in the last 5 games. So.
A 9-goal third quarter by the Magpies at Victoria Park in round 21 virtually ended St Kilda's hopes, but the fight carried on. The final round was at Moorabbin against third-place Carlton, who'd won 13 of 15 games under Alex Jezelenko. 35,000 on hand to see St Kilda fire up. The match produced some memorable football as St Kilda won by 40 points, but it wouldn't be enough. We saw the other side of media mega-star to be Rex Hunt.
He's in trouble, tackled by Jones, over to Barker. Barker has a shot for goal and has put it through, I think.
And watch Rex Hunt, budding goal umpire for sure. No. Yes, sir.
And Robbie Muir at his fieriest.
And they hurt.
Duperism has the go. One for his corner. Bottom, it'll be up the field. It's all the beauty! Down he went. TV ringside. Thank you very much. The beauty! The beauty! You're watching it on the big league. That was the best knockdown I've seen since Jimmy Carruthers put down Victor Wheel. If you don't mind.
There is ecstasy.
And St Kilda, 12 goals, 7. Look at Jonesy going crook. Like there's not about it. Percy pushed him in the back. So I think I nominated that before the umpire gave it. He won't win for St Kilda.
The Saints have beaten Carlton.
Instead of thinking about you playing your footy, we had a lot of these blokes running around. Maybe we were just a little bit too social in that way. And certainly not from the point of view that the country boys, where I come from, we took our game serious, but you did have these pretty boys running around. But it sort of changed over those years.
1978 would be Carl Ditterich's last season with the Saints. He made it one to remember too. Reported 3 times, he escaped penalty each time. After 203 games, he returned to Melbourne for 2 seasons as captain-coach.
Down, but side got him. Will take a bit of pushing away. I'll tell you that now. Oborn going for the mark. It comes down to Ditterich again. He can't pick it up. Over to Ditterich. Oh, another free kick, I'd say. As Ditterich goes after the ball now. Over to Barker. Wild kick.
With the financial situation at Moorabbin worsening and debts totalling more than $750,000, all 7 committeemen resigned, and former player and trucking magnate Lindsay Fox stepped in as chairman.
St Kilda was having the double problem of not being successful on the field and at the same time incurring debts over $1.6 million. $1.6 million in 1979 would probably be like $5 million today. I'm not sure that you can have a successful club that's not administered properly. But unless you're having on-field performance, you're not successful at all.
Carlton legend Alex Jezelenko captain-coached the Blues to the 79 flag. After a torrid split, he arrived at Moorabbin in 1980, allowing Val Perovic to move to Princes Park. 2 rounds into the season, Jezza was in the news again.
After 2 losses, St Kilda president Lindsay Fox ruthlessly sacked coach Mike Patterson, and it wasn't hard to guess his replacement.
Nobody likes defeat, and nobody at St Kilda will want to accept defeat from here on in.
Did you ask Mike Patterson for his resignation this morning?
Yes, I spoke to Mike this morning, and Mike was quite prepared to resign in the interests of St Kilda Football Club.
Well, you said before he made mistakes. Were those mistakes simply losing?
There's no question about it. We can't afford to lose. We're trying to get a new breed of people at St Kilda that have a tremendously strong desire to win.
and the new coach of St Kilda, Alex Jesaulenko. Alex, you've been the centre of two of the biggest football upsets in many years. Have you got to rekindle enthusiasm for football with this latest appointment?
Well, I certainly have. It came sooner than expected, Stephen. I expected to stay in football, play football, at least for this year, maybe next year, and kind of wait around for a coaching position to come along.
Robbie Muir made his mark at Victoria Park in round 6. He whacked Ray Shaw and added 4 more to his imposing record. Jezza didn't know what he was letting himself in for. Then, prior to round 9, St Kilda traded Russell Green to Hawthorn.
That particular night I arrived home and Don Scott was on the phone saying that the deal had been done. All you got to do was sign on the line on Friday, the following day. So I was effectively, I think I'm not getting carried away here, but I think effectively I was the only bloke who was selected in 2 AFL sides or VFL sides in one particular weekend.
Green would play more than 300 games and captain Victoria. 1981 was a year of ups and downs, no question about the goal of the year. The goal of the 80s belonged to Jeff Ferring. 90 yards, 1 foot, 7 inches. 3 weeks later, he failed to make the distance from 25 yards. 1983, Jezza out, Tony Jewell, the 1980 Richmond Premiership coach, in. A new general manager too, in Ian Stewart.
And I certainly didn't get off on the right foot. I mean, the first night I was taken to the club by Lindsay Fox and introduced to the players. I got up and I can remember making the comment that if blonde hair and chasing women successfully was the recipe for winning premierships, then they should have won the last 10. And Lindsay wasn't impressed by that approach at all. So I didn't start off on a good foot at all.
At Adam Street, turned David
Wholesale axings saw the strong South Australian contingent leave en masse. To the club would come Mark Jackson, Wacko Jacko. Dual best and fairest Trevor Barker would replace Duperuzal as captain. They would recruit Silvio Fascini and Paul Morwood. How didn't seem to matter. It was the news story of 1983.
Starting slower now, so you can go one club one week and another the next week if not on contract, so make some brass out of that one.
The Saints covered the windows of their rooms and banned the press from entering. Rumours were strong that the Saints were about to spring another surprise. Just on 1:57, the bearded Morwood made his entry onto VFL Park in St Kilda colours. The third last player on the ground wearing the red, white and black.
So after the decision was handed down, there has to be a new set of rules.
But there's none at the moment.
There are no rules at all, with the implication of the handing down of the Fascini case.
After kicking 41 goals in 11 games, including 10 goals against Sydney, Jewell sacked Mark Jackson.
Yeah, it was a shock. You know, it was a bit of disappointment, but life's full of them.
We finished up, we had to sack Mark, and the reason for it was that we devised a plan to get Mark involved in using other players, namely Silvio Fascini and Glenn Brown. Because we weren't getting enough goals out of kicking it straight to Mark. Anyway, after a week of planning and getting Silvio to run in and get handballs off Mark and Glenn Brown leading and having team meetings and telling the players exactly what was going on, and Mark agreed with everything, and we had a team meeting on the Saturday, he still agreed. And then, as we were about to run down the race to go out in the ground, I went up to Mark and said, "Now, mate, don't forget you've got to make this work, this plan work." And he said, "I'm the only one that kicks goals around here." He said, "There'll be no plan today." And anyway, that's exactly what happened. And so the next week he was sacked.
In his place, a kid named Lockett from Ballarat.
Ian Stewart called me in one afternoon and said we had to go up to Ballarat to talk to Plugger's, or Tony's father, who was called Plugger, and who was running a hotel near the stockyards up in Ballarat. And when I got there, Jimmy Jess was there, and which was handy. I thought this will help introduce us to Mr. Lockett. Anyway, after a couple of beers, we did eventually get to talk to Mr. Lockett about Tony's future, and the first thing Mr. Lockett said was, "If you take my lad down to Melbourne to play in the thirds, I'll come and rip your gonads out. And we assured him on that note that there'd be no way that Plugger would be playing in the thirds.
In 1984, the Ballarat connection would grow with the addition of youngsters like Danny Frawley and the number 49 Guernsey. Controversy would dog the club. The Carlton match. Muir hits former teammate and good mate Val Perovic. 12 weeks.
And Robbie just completely lost it. And I was within the vicinity and I thought, well, I go near him. I thought, no, I'll cop one myself. And I just ran away just as a young, frightened fellow. And then Kevin Smith, I think it was the umpire, started putting his head in his face and Robert was nearly going to job him. I thought, oh, this is, I think he ended up getting 12 or 13 weeks for it. But very fiery customer, young Robert.
Reminders of the season.
In the return match at Moorabbin, the Saints beat Carlton for the first time since 1978. Lockett would head the goal kicking with 77, the first of 10 years at the top.
Up out of the ruck, still got it. Wide looking for Lockett, who's been well held by Dool. This time it's Tony Lockett, swings it around on the left foot. It's bouncing towards goal. It's through. Great goal to Tony Lockett.
The administration was still unsettled. Jewell and Fox tangled. Under stand-in coach Graham Jalley, success came quickly with a 7-point win over Richmond. In 1987, St Kilda appointed Frawley captain, a surprising choice considering he was only 23. Lou Richards caught up with him.
Back home at Bungaree, the family are preparing for the potato harvest. 80 acres of prime spuds, ready to accompany pieces of fish around the nation, probably wrapped in my footy tips.
Just a go doing one, Dan.
Yeah,
Luke. That's it. Oh, look at them. Oh, look, I went. Oh, geez, I cut one and a half.
In 1987, St Kilda finished 10th under the guidance of Darryl Baldock. Among the outstanding recruits was Nicky Winmar, who'd been overlooked by the West Coast Eagles in their formation year. From Carlton came Sheldon and Marcoux to join the high-flying McConville, Jones and Nixon. The goals just kept coming for Lockett. The century came up at Moorabbin. In this match against Footscray in round 19, he'd kick 8 and eclipse Bill Moore's club record of 101 goals set 51 years earlier in 1936.
Champ, a beautiful kick, and they're the Saints players protecting Tony Lockett, and the crowd are coming on in their hundreds and thousands.
He's only 20 metres out, no angle to speak of. He's kicked 7, he's kicked 100, and if he can kick this, he'll equal Bill Moore's record of 101 goals for St Kilda. And Lockett has done that. He's put through goal number 8.
Time was running out, and I really wanted to get it in, in the last quarter, and being such a big game, well, I seen the chance and I guess I just took it.
What was it like lining up? It must have been a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was a bit of a buzz, a bit nervous. I suppose I was about 45 metres out and, it was a bit nerve-wracking, but, I was glad to see it go through the middle.
The St Kilda crowd loved it, and his father Howard, well, there could not have been a more prouder man in the world.
In 1987, Lockett would tie for the Brownlow with John Platten.
Still level.
West Coast Eagles, R. Glendenning, 2 votes.
Still level.
West Coast Eagles,
it's a tie.
A. Barrett's, 3 votes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have dual Brownlow medal winners.
A dream come true for any kid. They all think of, of winning a Brownlow medal. I never ever thought I could win one, and to win one has just been a great thrill. It's been a great honour, and I'm very proud of it.
Love him or hate him, he was the biggest story in footy.
Ballarat has the reputation of being one of the coldest places in Australia. After a day at Lake Learmont, I'll change that to the coldest place in the world. I was quite happy to take a backseat as the boys put Tony's boat through its paces.
If 1987 was a triumph, 88 was a disaster. Lockett got 3 weeks for hitting Fitzroy's Grant Laurie, then a broken ankle in the match against Footscray would keep him out again.
The St Kilda Football Club told Channel 10 and Channel 7 when and where Lockett would be arriving at the hospital and gave permission to myself, Eddie Maguire, and Peter Donegan to interview the gun full forward. The only trouble was, no one told Tony. The result, what would have been a normal sports story turned into that night's lead news story and one of the most famous incidents in the game.
I just went to the hospital expecting no one to be there. I was a bit disappointed and a bit down in the dumps, I suppose you call it. I'd just seen my season come to an end.
In 1989 he'd return. One of his greatest games was against state fullback and Carlton's young champ Stephen Silvani. His 10th goal sealed a 4-point win. The scenes afterwards told it all.
St Kilda a chance. Winmar looks for Lockett. Yes! Well, what a fairy tale this would be. Tony Lockett can win the game and bring up his 10th goal.
How did he mark that? Well, I thought Winmar had done the wrong thing. I thought he should have kept going and had a ping at the goals.
43 seconds left on the clock. Possibly the last chance for St Kilda. They trail by 2 points. Tony Lockett.
Great stuff, St Kilda. 3 seconds. Ball up. She's all over. The Saints are going to win it. St Kilda have won. They've won by 4 points. Jubilation at Moorabbin. What a game of football. I don't think, Crew, you could see better.
Tony Lockett being absolutely swamped here. He has kicked 10 goals 6, 10-7. And the Saints have got up by 4 points.
Then the turning point against the Eagles. 4 more for striking Bluey McKenna in a game in which he kicked 12 goals. After 3 fruitless seasons, Baldock's tenure was ended.
Yesterday morning, Baldock met a subcommittee who hoped the coach would indicate he would not continue next season. But Baldock did not commit himself. Before training last night, I confronted Baldock and told him he would be sacked by the board next week unless he agreed to resign at the end of the season.
You told me before training that this was a shock for you.
Well, it would be a shock because I met the board this morning and there was no discussion about my position. I was asked, did I want to coach next year? And I couldn't give them straight answer.
Is football as ruthless as politics?
Well, I suppose it could be, yes.
When our exclusive report was revealed last night, speculation was rife. Later, St Kilda was forced to announce that Baldock would resign at the end of the season.
Ken Sheldon would begin the first of his 4 seasons, arresting an alarming slump. By 1991, St Kilda was again a power to be reckoned with. Superbly fit after a rigorous pre-season, the biggest names were firing. Robert Harvey was only 16 when he came to the club from Seaford in 1988. In 1991, he was one of the most dangerous on-ballers in the league, with the ability to run all day. Stuart Lowe was the perfect foil for Lockett. Lowe had come to the Saints in 1986. By 1989, was regularly playing for Victoria, and in 1990 was club best and fairest. His kicking, though, had been atrocious.
I think Scott Turner tried to punch the ball instead of the hands, probably, Bernie, as we see Stuart Lowe concentrating hard from directly in front, right through the middle.
Stan was actually probably the biggest help to me. He came down as our skills coach under Kenny, and it was basically the end of Kenny's first year. Peter Hudson, myself and Stan basically spent all summer on just trying to sit down and work out a way of me being a lot more confident in front of goal.
Nathan Burke had progressed steadily since his arrival in 1987. He was destined to play a major role in the revitalisation of the Saints in the early 90s.
He in turn goes wide. It sits beautifully for Winmar. A lovely sweeping hand pass finds Coughlin. He'll kick it to the front of the goals. Who's he looking for? Big Tony. And he doesn't let him down. He takes the mark about 30 metres out directly in front. This could be his
Lockett was on fire. 12 at the SCG against the Swans, and in 3 weeks he'd kicked 34 goals, equalling Pratt and Coleman at their very best. The big bloke took advantage of the bye and in round 21 blitzed Carlton. His 13 goals was the best at VFL Park, and his 6th double-figure haul took him to 97 goals for the season. In Adelaide the following week, he kicked 10 more to bring up his 2nd ton and place a mortgage on a 2nd Coleman medal.
Great mark, big fellow.
Top pass too, wasn't it, by little Danny Craven?
And he's sitting on 100. 99 for Tony.
Yes, well, on the replay here, we see Danny Craven make Tony Lockett stretch the big hamstrings, and he has to go to ground. But if it's down there, there's no way known that Maynard's going to get anywhere near that one.
And I think the crowd have been warned not to run on the ground too, Bruce, by the announcer, or they'll be prosecuted.
Well, the police everywhere as Lockett goes for 100. He kicked 100 in 1987. Drop punt, familiar sight, kicks it superbly. Straight through the middle. And the big fella, the plugger, makes it 100 goals in 1991. And they do stand and cheer him as a man and a woman, as they should.
For the first time since 1973, St Kilda had made the finals. Plugger would bag 9 in the elimination final at Waverley to take his tally for the year to 127. Winmar was outstanding, but the Saints went down by 7 points.
Where's the big man Lockett? Here he comes. And a good mark, and that is beautiful football.
It was hollow, it was the end. Talking to players such as Frank Coughlin that had been at our club for 6 and 8 years, they'd never been in this situation. For it to end so sudden. 5 weeks from home in previous seasons, they were preparing, you know, for their holidays, or for this or for that, because the end was, you know, you knew it was coming. But the build-up and for it to end so quickly, it really was a sad few minutes.
1992 and an 8-goal first quarter set up a win over the reigning premiers Hawthorn. Lockett kicked 6. Then 10 against Adelaide in round 7 to take his tally to 32 in 3 games against the Crows. 12 more against Brisbane, St Kilda 4th on the ladder.
Never in doubt was that game, the result of that game, simply because of the attitude of the players, and we basically went on and destroyed the Brisbane Bears.
80,000 saw the Saints and Magpies at the MCG in round 12. They saw Sheldon have a piece of Craig Devonport. The youngster would get his own back later by kicking the winning goal.
He'll probably run it towards the boundary line. He's caught. Devonport, Craven's on his own in the goal square. Devonport puts the Saints in front.
In round 13, Lockett was back, and how? 15 goals. Then 9 more in a vital win over North, and 7 against the Eagles, who could only manage 3-11 at Waverley. In round 19, Lockett made it century number 3 with 6 against the Hawks. In round 20, St Kilda played Fitzroy. It would be their last appearance at Moorabbin. After 27 years, they would be on the move again to Waverley. A slugging win over Melbourne and a week of uncertainty as the Saints enjoyed the bye in the final round of the season. St Kilda into the final 6 at Carlton's expense, and an elimination final against Collingwood. 74,000 at Waverley, they were treated to a thriller. For skipper Frawley, however, the game ended early.
Yes, and a tragedy here for St Kilda. Danny Frawley coming off the ground with what looks to be a leg injury.
Ralph Smith up towards the 50. Woods gets back there, but Lowe charges at it and takes another mark.
Woods could have gone a bit hard at that one.
Dwyer beats a man, goes for goal. It's home.
Oh, it comes to the dangerous Harvey. He's off and running, breaks the tackle easily. Robert Harvey having a great game. In towards half-forward, he's found the former Geelong player in Fletcher. St Kilda starting off well in this third term. Fletcher going long, he's looking for Lockett, and Winmar over the back. Lockett gets onto the right hand, gives it to Kickett. Dale Kickett into an open goal, and he slams it through for a goal.
Well, Dale Kickett, who did his pre-season with Claremont, previous stints with Fitzroy and the West Coast Eagles. Saints forward again. Harvey gets it back with an old 1-2. Harvey to Lockett, 1 out. Ooh, not this time. In comes Kickett. He's got a chance for his second. Goes back to Fletcher. Fletcher props and pops up to Dwyer, and Dwyer kicks the goal.
St Kilda led at every change, home by 8 points for their first finals win since 1973.
It was probably a little bit too much hype put on that one. It was certainly a fantastic game and a big win, and playing Footscray the week after was probably seen as not as much of a challenge as winning that one, and as it turned out, Footscray played well and we lost.
Frawley would miss the first semi-final against Footscray as the Bulldogs got away to a commanding lead. A shoulder injury to Winmar was a crucial blow. Stan Elves must have wondered why he took on the job at the start of 1994. Successive losses, then Lowe and Lockett injured. At Waverley, though, in round 3, the Saints beat the reigning premiers Essendon. Fode kicked 5. The most controversial win came in Sydney. This was the day Lockett ran through the Swans' Peter Caven. Sydney had opened an 8-goal lead. Lockett with 11 was devastating. He'd be rubbed out for 8 games.
You know what that says, Sydney fans? Plugger Lockett has the last word.
One of the best wins of the season came in round 23. The lowly Saints severely denting Collingwood's finals hopes with a 2-point win at Waverley. Lockett back to top form with 8. They would be his last goals for the club. In 183 games, he'd kicked 898 goals. Now he was off to Sydney.
I think, first of all, the last thing we wanted to do was let Tony go as a club. There wouldn't be anybody in the club wanting him to go, but obviously, again, it just came down to the dollar, and we just couldn't match what was in the marketplace. And Tony was at that point of his career, I guess he had to think about those things. He'd been a fantastic servant for the club.
1995, a year that saw the Save Our Saints campaign. Nicky Winmar in the news for disputing an umpire's decision and copping a $1,500 fine. And Danny Frawley retire after an unprecedented 177 games as captain. At the Whitten Oval, he was carried from the field. Only John Nichols, Stephen Kernahan, Ted Whitten and Dick Reynolds had led their side in more matches.
I do look back on now, something that I didn't realise that I'd end up captaining the club for 9 years, and it's probably something that I'm very proud of the fact to be able to do that for such a long time, because obviously you've got to have the performances on the board as well, and to be able to captain a side for that long. So it's something that sits very close to my heart.
In 1996, St Kilda produced a night premiership to go with that last triumph 30 years before. In the centenary year of the AFL, 66,000 saw the Saints crush Carlton.
The top to Jones. In the pocket, he's got to take Redknapp. It goes Ticket.
They manufactured another one. Daniels snaps. Snap. Oh, great goal from Jason Daniels.
Harvey, brilliant. It was good shepherding by Shanahan off the ball too to give it back to Brown. Then to Harvey's kick to Everett's a good one. To Colossus Everett. What a star he's going to be in this competition. Lowe's got it. It's champagne footy. Only to Sirakovsky. Just through low, but here's a wonderful chance for Smith. He's got it.
And the winner of the Michael Tuck Medal here at the Ansett Australia Cup Grand Final is Nicky Winmar of St Kilda.
Dual captains Lowe and Burke on hand to collect the cup. On April 26, the club was shattered by the loss of one of its favourite sons.
Right up towards the centre of the ground. Barker, magnificent mark by Barker. Yes, hasn't done much. Barker! Oh, Trevor Barker, a tremendous mark. O'Keefe comes out towards Barker. A great mark by Barker.
The images of Trevor Barker will live on as long as football's played. Visions of the youngster who looked like a saint and flew like an angel. There have been few who've given their football club more than this local lad who came from Cheltenham, just down the road, and would spend 15 years at Moorabbin. Courage, loyalty and quality perhaps best sum up his 231-game career. He missed the equivalent of 4 seasons through injury. As the club's financial woes worsened, he played for nothing even donating back a car he'd won as club champion. He knocked back the opportunity to play elsewhere for huge money.
Trevor will be forever fill a special place in the hearts and minds of the St Kilda Football Club. We were privileged to have known him, and we record our appreciation for the many sacrifices that he made for this club. Although distressed, we're at the same time inspired by Bark's courage and his ability to fight to the end with his usual commitment.
Very difficult to comprehend why a person blessed with so much talent and blessed with such a wonderful personality is taken from us in the prime of his life. Although he was only here for a short period of time, he's left us with a lot of wonderful memories because of his great talent and that beautiful personality that he possessed.
He was just a good all-round bloke. If there's one thing that we're all a bit sad about is the fact that he didn't get the chance to coach his beloved St Kilda.
What a season. The lights went out at Waverley midway through the game against Essendon. Pandemonium reigned, the Bombers winning after a resumption on the following Tuesday night. This is how Channel 7's popular Talking Footy reviewed the centenary season.
They'd won the Ansett Cup, and it looked as though the Saints were ready to take on the world. But come the real thing, the home and away rounds, St Kilda got the wobbles. In the first round, they couldn't match it with North Melbourne.
Gets about his first kick for the second half and goals.
In round 2, Geelong had their number, not least Gary Ablett against Christian Bardsley in the incident that cost Ablett 5 weeks. Lowe kicked 9 goals that day, but even with the spearhead in form, Burke and Harvey running wild, and youngsters like Ozzie Jones and Joel Smith blitzing, the Saints couldn't win a game.
Hand gather, hand pass, yes, that's better. Jones goes for goal, and Jones has popped it through. Good football, St Kilda.
The loss that really hurt was against lowly Melbourne in round 3.
That's Winmar too.
Not only did St Kilda lose 4 points that day, but they saw star runner Nicky Winmar carried off with a seriously injured knee. He wouldn't play again until round 13.
Really don't want to see that.
But a month in, the Saints finally started to build their season. A string of wins, including a classic over Collingwood in round 7, saw the Saints edge their way back into finals contention.
Beautifully done. Stuart Lowe will head for home. He bends it back and he's kicked the cellar.
By round 17, when they beat Geelong, Lowe kicking 7, and then Collingwood again a week later, ending the Magpies' finals hopes, they were warm favourites for 8th spot.
Smith goes bang. It may have covered the players on the goal line. I think it's a goal to St Kilda.
However, yet again, the Saints' momentum died. Another couple of vital losses at the end of the season to Footscray and Hawthorn in rounds 20 and 21 finally put September out of reach.
The St Kilda Football Club has just completed its 100-year history. Our on-field performance has only produced one premiership. Off-field, the club has been a passionate and an exciting member of the VFL-IFL competition. We have had our ups and downs, but the St Kilda Football Club is an integral part of the history of this competition. The club has worked hard over the last 3 or 4 years to bring about success on field again. We're hoping that for the 1997 onwards that we can see a generation of success on field and certainly off field. The merger between the football club and the social club last year and a number of exceedingly important steps that we have taken in bringing about stability, I believe, will give us a great future. Stick with the Saints. I hope the next 100 years is going to be exciting. Thanks for your support, and we look forward to seeing the second century as a successful century. Thank you.
Now you've trapped him on the boundary. This time he's gone for sure. 2 half-backs on either side and you're a ruckman too, what's more. Now line him up and iron him out. This time you just can't miss. Goodbye, Doc. Lots of luck. I'll blow you a farewell kiss. Oh, shoulder down, elbow out. You got the Doc right in your sights. Then suddenly he's just not there and you thump the man in white. Oh, Darryl Baldock. Oh, Darryl Baldock, Mr. Magic with a ball. Well, he could spin to the left inside you. He could blind turn back to the right. As hard to catch as Ronnie Biggs, like a hummingbird in flight. Now no one ever touched him or caught him with the ball. They sold him here, they sold him there, but he was never there at all. Oh, shoulder down, elbow out, you've got the duck right in your sights. Then suddenly he's just not there and you found the man in white. Oh, Darryl Baldock, oh, Darryl Baldock, Mr. Magic with a ball. Now there's a whole new generation to inherit Baldy's skill. There's Trevor and there's Michael and the Saints are back for the kill.